Hello and welcome to this book club of the Lotus Eaters, this time on The Looming Tower, Al-Qaeda's Road to 9/11. I'm joined by Beau, of course, and today we're going to talk about, well, that. So used to hosting the podcast, I always think there's more coming. But so I don't know where we should start this off, but I'm going to start off just by saying that I really enjoyed the writing, especially in the first half. It's just the way he wrote, I really found it easy, and it gets you into the story in a way that I can appreciate.
Now, he's a great writer, Lawrence Wright.
Yeah.
So that won a Pulitzer Prize. He's also like a screenwriter for proper movies and an award-winning journalist, a proper old-school investigative journalist. None of this
You can
modern
definitely
nonsense.
tell when you're reading it.
He's
Right.
a proper old-school writer, and it's very, very well done. Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll start at the beginning, I suppose. So for chapter 1, the martyr, and that's where I'm also going to say. So this is about SAYYID Qutb, who is the ideological founder of Al-Qaeda, you could say, is in this respect. So he was a respectable Egyptian man who went from rags to riches, in a sense, because he went to New York, and then decided he would refuse temptations of the New World and be an Islamic man.
Yeah.
And he's a bit mad, but I found myself, with the way he wrote it, incredibly on his side.
Really?
Like, I started feeling, not in a sense of just, I can really see where he's coming from. His solutions are insane.
Right.
You know, he wants an Islamic State, but I could really see where he was coming from, and I suppose we'll start off with some of the funny stories from SAYYID.
Yeah, sure. Now, I know what you mean when people are sort of a bit disgusted with the decadence of the West
Yeah.
or the depravity, but they sort of seem to immediately take it way too far. Like
Yeah.
QUTB, is that how you pronounce it? QUTB. He's obviously,
SAYYID.
like a lot of Muslim men, massively repressed sexually. Like, massively.
Bored.
Can't handle women at all. Doesn't know how to talk to them, how to deal with them, how to be around them, his concept of how they should exist in society, all of it is completely deranged.
It's like a boarding school boy who's just never seen a woman. It's
Yeah, it's madness.
odd. But anyway, we'll start with one of the funniest stories, because it was mostly what I noted for his section. So this is on the boat on the way over to New York. At least I believe it was a boat by the writing.
Yeah.
Quote, his deliberations were interrupted by a knock at the door. Standing outside his stateroom was a young girl, whom he described as thin and tall and half naked. She asked him in English, "Is it okay for me to be your guest tonight?" Qutb responded that his room was equipped for only one bed. It's awkward already. Quote, a single bed can hold 2 people, she says. Appalled, he closed the door in her face. I heard her fall onto the wooden floor outside and realized that she was drunk, he recalled. Quote, I instantly thanked God for defending my temptation and allowed me to stick to my morals. I mean, it's just awkward, isn't it? Like, you can feel the awkwardness.
Yeah. And one thing there, it says it describes her as a young girl. It means a young woman.
Yes.
It's not an actual child. It was a woman.
We should have to make that distinction
Kind
with
of
Islam, don't we?
random, randomly propositioned him, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, weird, but like, this girl asked for sex and you just went, whore!
Yeah.
Be
Although,
funny.
to be fair, sharing a single bed with someone is really uncomfortable. There's not enough room. I would say that.
He is right on that one.
Yeah. But no, because the thing that the book does talk about, doesn't it, that he wasn't massively, the QUTB wasn't like, he wasn't raised to be ultra orthodox or extremely strict. So he made it to sort of young adulthood and wasn't sure whether he wanted to be sort of strictly Islamic or just go along with Western tradition and just live the life of a Western person.
I mean, that was his deliberations at the start there. He was literally debating with himself. Should I become a Westerner and engage in decadence, or should I try and stay Islamic in this new world? And then he was interrupted by the woman and then went, no, I'm a Muslim.
Yeah. There's this idea that people that are converted, for example, someone that used to be a prostitute that then converts to be sort of extremely hardline Christian, they're like, you know, the idea of that, someone that used to be immoral, when they decide they're going to be moral, they're sort of ultra that. You know, that's a known thing. When someone converts to something, sometimes they become the most ultra version of it. Not that he converted to Islam, but when he decided to live his life by the...
Islamism, you know.
Right, yeah.
Because before, we should say, he was an anti-communist, a member of the government in I think it was the education department. And he was a pretty normal guy, like, for the modern world.
They said he was just like a conservative Egyptian.
Yeah.
Nothing much more than that.
But then going to the West seems to have been radicalized him in his own words.
Mm,
So that's
mm.
one example of a thing that radicalized him. I don't know if you want to read the next example of when he checks into a hospital.
All right. It says, there, a nurse scandalised him by itemising the qualities she sought in a lover. He was already on guard against the forward behaviour of the American woman.
I love how that's written. The American
Like
woman.
that she dare talk about relationship or sex or anything or love.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the
It's
specifics.
just not allowed in his mind, really.
Yeah, and then there's the next one, which is probably the one where I sympathised with him most. And I don't know if you want to do this.
Lectured by the university teacher.
Yes.
The issue of sexual relationships is simply biological. That's a quote. Who's saying
That's
that?
the teacher.
That's the teacher says that. All right. Oh, and he replies.
Sorry, no, she continues.
Oh, and then she continues. Okay. You Orientals complicate this simple matter by introducing a moral element to it. The stallion and the mare, the bull and the cow, the ram and the ewe, the rooster and the hen, none of them consider moral consequences when they have intercourse, and therefore life goes on, simple, easy, and carefree. End quote. So he heard that and was absolutely revolted by it.
Yeah, this is after he went to like New York, which is to him degeneracy central.
Yeah,
And-
the belly of the beast.
Yeah, and then he goes to a relatively conservative place that's got a history of what do you call it when you don't drink? Sobriety.
Right, yeah,
Like, they banned
abstinence
alcohol.
or whatever.
And then even there, he's interacting with a teacher, and she comes up with that crap. I mean, sorry, just become an animal. Like, have you read Brave New World?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Do you remember when John the Savage goes back to the civilized world? I mean, I'm getting those vibes. Like, SAYYID is interacting with these insane people.
What's so insane about that?
The fact that she says that you should have no moral consequences whatsoever with sex. Like, you shouldn't treat it as anything but just an interaction. Oh, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Like in Brave New World, where it's just...
Oh, yeah, where the whole thing's in... transactional, isn't it, in Brave New World? Yeah, completely.
Where everyone slept with everyone, and you're only sleeping with the same man again. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, I suppose that for me, for me, that is a bit lax. But so what?
Sure, like if
that's how she wants to live her life, fine. Good luck to her.
But she's not advocating just that I want to do this. It's that you guys have got it wrong, and the real way to do it is how I do it,
Right.
just to have no moral element. Which, of course, to a Muslim, is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
especially a guy from Egypt at this time. But it's just, it really reminded me of Brave New World. So anyway, he has these interactions, and then he comes to the conclusion, only by restoring Islam to the center of their lives, their laws, and their government could Muslims hope to recapture their rightful place as the dominant culture in the world. Of course, being a Islam nationalist, he thinks that the rightful place of Islam is to just dominate everyone else.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's just Islam, isn't it?
Yes.
So he's actually being honest about what Islam is, I suppose.
Yeah. Which is something I actually
Yeah.
quite find refreshing about this whole thing.
Well, that he's honest. The
Yeah.
QUTB guy is honest.
But even all the other Islamists we get to, they're quite honest about where Islam leads. Which,
Yeah, there's a thing there where different, not nations, but different peoples, different or sometimes nations, you can look back at your glory days. So, for example, the British, look back at the British Empire at its height, perhaps just before the American Revolution or in the late 19th century, something like that. You look back to sort of a golden age as far as you're concerned, or a high watermark, however you want to describe it. And so, well, in the example of the British Empire, we look back at it, maybe some of us anyway, wistfully, but like, oh, it's gone. It's gone. It's never going to come back. Whereas there's quite a strong strain in the Islamic world, in the Islamic mind, of we will reconstitute the Islamic world at its height. So all the way up to sort of
Spain.
Al-Andalus, yeah. With that is Muslim land, Islamic land, and it's our destiny to
But it's the proper and right way the world should be ordered, with Muslims at the top, dominating everyone else, who should have no say in how their lives are run, unless they're people of the book, in which case they just pay tax.
But you're still kafir, aren't you, even if you're off the book?
Yeah, like even as you say,
Huh.
anyone who looks back at their great empires of past, we don't have that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Well, the idea for Brits anyway, isn't it? That the idea that you could even hint or suggest of that sort of...
It's laughable.
Yeah, it's laughable. It's embarrassingly laughable. But for them, it's sort of the whole cornerstone of their worldview in all sorts of different ways.
Which
Yeah,
is strange, but that's something to keep in mind, as you said.
because this is how Bin Laden and a lot of Al-Qaeda think about things as well, don't they? Because this QUTB, just to make clear, is sort of some sort of intellectual,
Yeah,
not spiritual leader, but some sort of intellectual driving force that predates Al-Qaeda and Bin Laden.
Yeah, so this chapter is going through his life. So he has that experience in the West, comes back, and then he decides he wants to help overthrow the Turkish king and replace him
Which
with
you do.
Abdel Nasser, which, fair enough, you're an Egyptian nationalist, especially, which is funny because, as he says, once they overthrew the king and put Nasser in charge, that was the first time in 1,000 years, I believe it was, I think it might have been 2,000, that they had an Egyptian as head of state.
Right.
So as an Egyptian nationalist still in his mind to some extent at this point, that still is a glorious thing to do in a massive revolution. But then, of course, Abdel Nasser wants Arab socialism.
Mm.
That's not Islamic.
Yeah.
I don't remember that being in the Quran.
Yeah.
So,
I believe Nasser at the time enjoyed massive support. Of course, he had his enemies, of course. But I think most Egyptians sort of loved it.
yeah.
He was sort of
Overthrow
a
the
strong leader, wasn't he?
foreign
as
king,
far as they're concerned.
fighting the British.
Yeah. What more can you want?
Yeah.
Almost.
So, of course, QUTB falls out with Nasser. He offers him a government position. He ends up falling out because lack of Islamic law. What's this Arab socialism crap?
Mm.
I wanted Islam. So QUTB ends up being hung by Nasser for plotting to overthrow him. The funny part is that just before the sentence is carried out, Nasser realizes, oh wait, if I kill him, he's a martyr.
Mm.
Yes, this Islam thing. Did you forget about that? So then he sends a guy to basically give QUTB a pardon, and QUTB Chad no response. He just goes, I don't care, hang me. It's like,
Yeah.
if I die, my words will mean more.
Mm.
So he gets hung, and he becomes a martyr, an ideological, pure man who fought for his beliefs right up to his death, was killed by the state. I mean, you can see yourself if you're an Islamist, like, that's our guy.
And he enjoyed the sort of little Hitler Mugabe moustache as well.
Yeah, there's that.
We can put a picture up, and he liked the Chaplin stroke Hitler stroke Mugabe tash.
Strange.
Yeah.
But that's QUTB, so that's the foundation for the ideology. So then, Rosas are turning up already. So on chapter 2, we go to AYMAN al-Zawaahiri. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these terribly. So.
Zawahiri.
Right. So he was a follower of QUTB. He set up a terrorist cell in Egypt. He was also an Egyptian. He set it up by the age of 15. So his life was set. What else was he going to do? And then there's just a meteor lands in the Muslim world and the Muslim worldview, because Israel wipes out the Egyptian forces and takes Jerusalem and the Sinai Peninsula in one of the several wars that they had about this. And I can't get over the fact that in the detail he describes of just how much this breaks the Muslim psyche.
Mm.
And they're just like, Jesus Christ. Like, we're meant to have God on our side.
Mhm.
We all declared war on them when we lost.
Mm.
Like, you didn't lose a little bit, you lost bad. So,
Is that the 6-Day War?
I think, is that the one where they took the Sinai? Because that's the one that's...
Where NASA built like giant sort of some sort of, and everyone declared war on Israel at the same time, and the Israeli Air Force just went and bombed everyone.
BTFO'd a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, so I wrote down here the response as being Doomer Muslims, who they also, at one point he wrote in here, they concede that Allah is not on their side. God's not with us. I mean, even at one point they says, what was it? That Allah has sided with the Jews? That's how far we've fallen? It's just like, you really, really have a down position where you're thinking your God has sided with the Jews and just abandoned you because you're not Islamic enough. So the Duma Islamists, that's their response. So what should we do in response? We should return to Islam, and that'll solve everything. Which, these people aren't very materialistic, so don't expect them to be. So they also says that history is now reversing itself because now even the Jews dominate us. That bad. This is considered the worst of the worst situation, which tells you more about Islam. And then there's the Iranian Revolution, which shows that there is a future. There is an Islamist future on the horizon that's possible. It's an Islamic state.
Yeah. It's Shia, though, isn't it? The Islamic Revolution in Iran.
Yeah, so it's a bit embarrassing.
Specifically Shia, isn't it? Quite specifically. And of course, Saudi and the Saddam regime and the Bin Laden family, they're all Sunni, aren't they?
Mm.
So there's like a profound difference, isn't there, between Sunni and Shia? I mean, it's a heretical schism, isn't it?
But for people who don't know, we probably should say. So after the caliphs, there was a debate about who should rule after that, and that is literally the origins of the Sunni-Shia split, which seems like the pettiest thing imaginable. Because there was a debate between a guy who I believe, what is it now? I forgot his name now, damn it. Ali? I believe that's
right, yeah, the sons of Ali. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other side said another guy should be in charge. I was just like, who cares? Like, as an outsider's like, who could give a crap? But this causes discontent all throughout because the Sunnis are kind of embarrassed that the only Islamic state they can point to is a Shia one. So, bit doomer again. But anyway, so then al-Zawaahiri plots to kill the leader of Egypt at the time, Sadat, and at his funeral. And he is arrested after Sadat is killed. He is then tortured, released, and moves to Saudi Arabia. Just to have fun.
A couple of points about this is that apparently, because I've listened to Lawrence Wright talking sort of Q&As and do lectures and things. Apparently that's a really important point, though, for al-Zawahiri's life, is that when he was imprisoned there, they sort of tortured him, they humiliated him in all sorts of ways, and that he never, ever got over it. Lawrence Wright says that when he went into prison, he was sort of a fairly extreme Islamist. And when he came out, he was obsessed with carnage.
Like, just radicalized for chaos.
Yeah.
We need to bring the apocalypse.
And it wasn't like he was done with sort of debating the finer points of scripture or anything. No, it's how can we kill as many people as possible? So that's quite a profound thing for Ayman al-Zawahiri's life, apparently. And he's still alive. He's like in his 70s now. Isn't he? He's still alive.
Still out there.
Because I said to you just before we came on here, when I just quickly had a look at his wiki page, I expected to see that he had been droned in the 2010s at some point. But he's not, he's still alive, he's still at large, somewhere out there, God knows where, Pakistan probably, who knows, but he's still alive, this guy.
I know.
He's sort of the sole survivor almost.
And he's involved in everything.
Yeah.
And he's just fine. Everyone forgot about him. Just plotted off.
I wonder if he'll ever face any justice.
You know what? We'll do this, and then he'll die the day we'll release it. Anyway, let's move on to chapter 3. So there wasn't much here, but I've listed here. It was the father was rags to riches, hard worker.
He's Bin Laden's father.
Bin Laden's father,
Mohammed Bin Laden,
who went from rags to riches, incredible hard worker, if we're to believe. And he would start off as a bricklayer, and by the end, even when he's a multi-billionaire, building a road for the Saudi kingdom, because he would get royal favour. He would even go down and help with the bricks sometimes to show them how it's properly done, you losers. Because, can't get good work these days. To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.